Hello everyone! Sorry, it's been a long time since I uploaded a video, but I've got reasons. I was on holiday in Japan, then I was going through a massive heat wave in Paris. We reached 40 degrees on 2 or 3 days, I think. It was hell. And I was also ill, so I caught a cold during a heat wave. Go figure. I think it's a little souvenir from Japan. So sorry in advance if I disappear halfway through the video due to extreme illness. But if I do, just so you know, the ad revenue will go towards my funeral. So thank you in advance. So I'll try to make it through the entire video with my notes, which is going to be why I'm going to look sideways a little bit sometimes. I don't want to go off track, essentially, because I love to do that. But the first thing that I want to talk about is that for this update, I kind of struggled at first to come up with things that I kind of improved on. Well, not so much because I hadn't made any progress, because I did work on my Japanese, but looking back at the previous video that I had made 9 months ago, it felt like I hadn't done that much progress because I was comparing the number of words I had covered on my Anki deck. You know, I've been working through a 6K vocabulary deck on Anki, and I think I uncovered like 150 new words, which in 9 months seems like nothing. But actually, after thinking about it long and hard, I realized that my progress didn't lie in the number of new words I had learned or, uncovered on Anki, but kind of was elsewhere, and this is what we'll talk about today, just to give you a bit of a preview, if you will. So yeah, basically, if you looked at it on paper, my progress didn't seem very dramatic, and I don't think I've made massive progress, don't get me wrong, but it still felt like I improved, but it was just not reflected in that specific deck, which I kind of like to use as a metric for my progress. And it turns out my issue wasn't about learning new words, because I don't know thousands of words in Japanese, but I would say I know probably 1,500 to maybe 2K on good days. My issue was actually that I didn't know how to use these words well in a sentence, or in other words, my grammar was poor in comparison to my vocab. It's hard to give a specific number, but imagine you've learned, let's say, 3,000 words, but your grammar is poor. That means you'll be in a situation where, yes, you're able to recognize a lot of words, but you don't really know how they are like working in a sentence or how to use them in a sentence. And you can know a lot of words, but if you don't understand the grammar, then you won't really be able to make sense of sentences, because in Japanese, in any language really, grammar gives meaning as well. It's not just words, So I think my focus was not so much on words, but on practicing and learning the grammar and honing it a little bit more, if you will. And actually, while I was in Japan, so last month, I just came back 2 weeks ago, I realized that I'm still not fluent. That's not me telling you, oh my god, my Japanese is amazing now. No, it's not. But I did realize that I'm more comfortable in more situations. I'm able to sort of come up with more complex sentences. For example, I had to send packages to France, so I could come up to the counter and say, "Furansu ni okuritai desu," for example. If I'm picking up online orders, because I order manga, it's kind of a tradition. I don't really read them as quickly as I buy them, but still. So I would order them online and be like, "Chumon o tori ni kimashita." It's not like, super eloquent Japanese, but it gets the job done. I also had to buy shoes for my cousin. So, for example, I would point to a pair of shoes that I liked, and I would be like, "Ano kutsu wa 29 cm ga arimasu ka?" And then I would say, "Mou chotto ooki saizu ga arimasu ka?" Or "Max saizu wa nan desu ka?" etc., etc. So it wasn't crazy sentences, but I felt proud. Because it's not something I could do as comfortably before, and I think that's something to be praised. Not because it's impressive in and of itself, but more in the sense that it's something I couldn't do as well before. So that's progress. It's not measurable, but it's there. Something I'll say is that obviously, I know that AI is a big topic now. People hate it, some people love it. I love it, but I try not to use it or reject it in some aspects of society. For example, in art, I don't think AI has a place, especially when you're selling something. I think that's kind of bad. But anyway, we're not gonna open that kind of worms. But I did use ChatGPT a lot to help me with my Japanese, not to just translate and then say a sentence, but actually asking ChatGPT, how would you say that you want a medicine for mosquito bites? True story. I was completely eaten alive by mosquitoes in Japan, or insects. I don't know which ones it was, but I got bit. And it would tell me like N4 level appropriate sentences. Because what's the point of saying a sentence that's N1 level that maybe I will be able to learn off by heart, but then I'll forget? Actually, what I wanted to do is to sort of prove myself that with the Japanese I already know and a bit of help from ChatGPT, I could actually say stuff and do what I needed to do essentially in Japanese without using English. And in many cases, the words or sentences I asked ChatGPT to help me with, I remember still now. So for example, I know how to say mushi sasare, so insect bites, which is useful in Japan, and how to say, for example, tennaide to say like to stay when you're ordering food, mochikaeri de when you want to take out, etc., etc. So all these words I still remember. So I think that's a win for me. I love that for me. The third thing I wanted to talk about, and that kind of ties into what I just said, is that I feel more comfortable speaking Japanese now. Again, it's not fluent. There's still situations where I don't know how to express something. That's absolutely normal. But even though I'm getting more comfortable, there's still situations where I will say a sentence perfectly, maybe because I've said it 10 times in my head, so of course it's going to come out near perfect. And then when people respond, I'm like, what? Like cricket, like the meme. So that's kind of funny, and I think when you're a beginner, it does sound a bit scary to be in situations where like, you'll say something and you won't understand. So it's like, ooh, that's going to be awkward. But I think language learning comes with awkwardness more often than not, especially in the early stages. Like you're always in situations where you don't know what someone is saying, but often, not always, but often you can infer what's happening a little bit. So, for example, the people will point to things, or you can sort of ask to rephrase. There's a lot of strategies you can try before giving up. Asking the person to repeat, say that you don't speak Japanese that much, so they'll use gesture more. And if everything fails, because it does happen, then I guess you can use a translator, or sometimes I've used ChatGPT for complex things. I had to change, I don't know if I think I've talked about this in a previous video. I'm not wearing glasses now because I hate them when I'm recording, but I normally wear glasses because I have slight strabismus. Now people are gonna nitpick my eyes. It's very mild, so I don't know if you'll see it, but anyway, I have got double vision most of the time. It's temporary, but I had to change a lens that you apply on the glasses. Anyway, I'll skip the details. And to say that in Japanese, that was too difficult because I had to say that I've got a prescription, the lens is already cut, you just need to stick it on the glass, replace the old one, blah blah blah. In one instance, an opticians couldn't do it. I don't know why. I went to another one and it worked. I just showed them a message because I was like, I'm not gonna, have a meltdown in Japanese trying to explain what I want with my glasses. So, sometimes you can't do things, but a lot of the times you can do it. So, it's just about trying to use what you know and take it from there. And the last main point I wanted to talk about is grammar. So I've been focusing on grammar more. I use ChatGPT a lot for it, and I've kind of detailed the way I do it in a previous video, which I will link. Hopefully I will not forget. Please, Kevin, from the future, don't forget. But essentially, I asked ChatGPT to help me practice grammar points systematically, meaning I want to practice this grammar point. Can you give me gap fills, or can you ask me to translate this English sentence into Japanese so I practice this grammar point, etc., etc. So some people find it boring. I think in small amounts it's okay, and it's kind of nice to isolate a grammar point before you then try to use it in real life. It's kind of, I think we call that scaffolding in language learning. Sometimes I use words wrong, but essentially the idea is that you start from super easy. you know, like in isolation, that makes, you know, studying grammar in isolation, that makes it easier. And then in context, in the wild, if you will, that's more difficult. But the idea is that you start from easy and then you make it more difficult over time, right? I think that makes sense. That's pretty much how we learn anything in life, right? And it helps me. So ChatGPT helps me a lot with reviewing old grammar because as then I'm and ChatGPT helps me a lot to review old grammar points. What I do is I have a list, a document where I put the dates of when I studied a grammar point. The date is not too important, just the month is enough. It's just to kind of keep track of when or how long ago I studied this grammar point. I don't think it needs to be super detailed, but just like, you know, te miru, for example, I studied in January. Then I reviewed the te form a little bit in February because I was getting a bit rusty on some of the verb forms, whatever. And then I go back to it, and I can just feed it to ChatGPT and then ask ChatGPT, based on these grammar points, can you help me review all of them, you know, with random sentences. So that's a way of doing that scaffolding thing. So doing one grammar point is, you know, a certain level of difficulty, but doing many grammar points, especially when you have to sort of, what's the word? Not blend them together, but like use them in the same sentence, that's an extra level of difficulty. So, you know, that's a way of challenging yourself. You know, on a regular basis. I hope what I'm saying makes sense. I feel like I feel like I'm all over the place, but I'm really hoping that makes sense. But as usual, if you have any questions, you know, ask them below, obviously. Anything else I want to talk about? It's something that's kind of in the background of my mind. I've said I wouldn't do it, then I said I would do it. It's the JLPT. I don't know at this point if I want to do the N4. I know in terms of like for your CV, N4 is useless, quote unquote. Not quote unquote, but so to speak. But I wouldn't do it for that reason. I would do it because it's nice to see progress and prove myself that I'm progressing. I don't know yet where I stand with that. I guess if I want to pass it in December, I'll have to make a decision quite quickly. But yeah, I guess time will tell for that one. And final question, someone asked me in a post, a community post I made. And by the way, that's the reason why I am doing this video first on my first. That's why it's my first video back. It's because most of you wanted me to do one. So don't forget to subscribe and check out the community posts because I do surveys and I ask for your opinion on what you want to see. But anyway, someone asked me how my Japan trip was, and it was amazing. I went out a lot. Some things cannot be talked about on YouTube, obviously, but I did practice a lot. So in terms of language learning, it was great. Oh, I also should show you the manga I've bought. Give me a second. I forgot to sort of plan for it, but here we go. Let's go. Here they are. So the first one is Flying Witchy. Flying Ichi. So Flying Witch. I haven't read more than one chapter. It seemed easy enough. I mean, obviously it's not N5 level. It's probably N4 to N3 level, I would say. But I think it's the right amount of challenge for now. And I've bought also this manga, which, if my reading skills are good, is called Karakai Jozu no Tanaka-san. I think his name is Tanaka-san. That's the one. I'll zoom in. Hopefully it's focusing properly. It's kind of a silly manga where like they're playing pranks on each other for the entire series. I think that's pretty much what it is. It's a little bit silly, a little more advanced. I think it's more N3 level, probably. This one, Flying Witch, is... I mean, I don't know much about it. Apparently, it's not like super... there's not like a lot of superpowers involved, but it's kind of in the background. But the main thing is... I don't know. I think it's a girl discovering her new life or whatever. Honestly, I didn't dive deep enough into it. But yeah, so if you wanted some manga ideas, or maybe if you've read them before, or heard about them before, feel free to let me know what you thought of them. And I realized that my sound was super, super quiet, so I hope I can fix it in Premiere Pro. That's what happens when you get back to filming after a long time without filming. But yeah, I hope that video was helpful, and I will see you in a future video. Bye bye.